In this segment, handlers demonstrate the movement of cattle through gateways in a set of cattle yards, using some basic principles of livestock handling. Initial training of cattle to the yards starts when they are yard weaned. By moving weaners through all parts of the yard every day for 7 to 10 days, they learn to move with confidence and they respond to the handler. During yard movement, the handler still works on the edge of the animal's flight zone. He enters it to get the animal to move in the desired direction and exits it to reward the animal as it moves off. In this first demonstration, 2 handlers show the correct way of moving a mob of cattle through a yard gateway. The 2 handlers enter the yard and walk to the left, away from the fence running to the gate. The intention is to move the cattle along this fence line. One handler positions himself to encourage the cattle along the fence and off the gate post. The second handler starts the movement. The cattle follow the fence line, keeping the handler on the edge of their flight zone. This handler needs not move until the cattle walk past. The second handler's position applies just enough pressure so the cattle leave the yard at a walking pace. Now the handlers demonstrate the incorrect way of emptying this yard. They enter the yard walking down the fence line perpendicular to the gate. One handler stands near the fence to control movement through the gate. Unfortunately, he is on the wrong side. The cattle circle to come up the yard, and the handler steps into their flight zone in his enthusiasm to keep them going. The cattle risk knocking themselves on the fence post, causing stress on the animal and increasing the risk of bruising to the carcass. This time, the handlers demonstrate the wrong method again, but from another view. Again, they enter the yard along the fence, and one handler stands on the fence line. The cattle have to circle clockwise to get to the gate, but then have to turn hard to the left as they avoid the handler while going through the gateway. The unnecessary pressure he applies lifts the risk of cattle damaging themselves on the gate post. Now the cattle are moved correctly by just one handler. He opens the gate in the direction the cattle will move to avoid them getting caught up on it. He walks in and around the cattle, allowing them to move freely down the fence line. Walking just within their flight zone, he applies enough pressure just to get them to walk quietly. As they approach the gate, he positions himself to stop them hitting the post. As they move through the gate, he rewards them by stepping out of their flight zone. The cattle respond. Finally, he reapplies pressure to the last 3 animals by moving into their flight zone, and they move through. In the next 2 demonstrations, the handler controls the speed of the cattle as they move through the gateway. Positioned near the gate, he moves in and out of the flight zone at 90 degrees to the cattle. Moving into the flight zone, the cattle, forward of the handler, speed up. Those behind slow down. Releasing the pressure by moving away from the cattle allows the next ones to speed up as they follow the mob. A second way to control the speed is to walk parallel to the cattle movement and just inside the flight zone. The cattle will speed up as the handler passes them, walking parallel to them but in the opposite direction. As he walks in the same direction, the cattle slow as he passes their shoulder. Those ahead will speed up until he passes this point of balance, and then they will slow down. In this last demonstration, The two handlers look to draft two steers from the mob and through the gate. One handler positions himself at the gateway. The other correctly goes around the mob to get them moving down the fence line. The handler at the gate selects his steers and he steps into the mob flight zone. He moves away from the selected steers, the others move aside, and he allows his steers through the gate.